Welcome to Kansas Ag Report with your host, Brian Hallman.
Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Brian Holman, and here's our lineup for today's show. In Ag News, we'll take a look at local and national headlines affecting Kansas farmers. In our Ag Feature, we sit down with Josh Rowe, Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, for the second part of our interview about the health of ag in Kansas. And inside Kansas Ag, Kansas Soybean reports on soybean production statistics, and Farm Bureau talks to us about the Veterinarian Feed Directive. And in News You Need to Know, we get our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, look back at last week's market activity with the guys from Paragon, and we'll let you know about important events coming up around the state of Kansas. Glad you could join us.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Ag Risk Solutions. Experience, knowledge, integrity. Your crop insurance solution, Ag Risk Solutions. Kansas Weed Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association. Supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Here's our national headlines for this week in Ag News. There are more than 8,600 farmers markets in the U.S., and the USDA says that the demand for local foods remains strong. Janie Dunning, State Director for USDA Rural Development in Missouri, says that farmers markets are helping smaller scale farms, consumers, and the economy. Missouri, along with California and New York, are the top 3 states for farmers markets infrastructure improvements, which in part help farmers add value to their products. U.S. cattle organizations are not happy with the USDA's decision to allow imports of fresh and frozen beef from Brazil. The agency announced that the two countries had agreed to open up their respective markets to fresh beef exports. The USDA said its Food Safety Inspection Service had determined that the Brazil food safety system for meats meets U.S. standards. Cattle groups disagree. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association and the U.S. Cattlemen's Association issued statements expressing concerns with Brazil's ongoing issue with livestock diseases, especially foot and mouth disease. The executive director for the Illinois Pork Producers Association, Jennifer Thierry, says the group is disappointed in the Chicago Tribune story about the state's pork industry. The article looks at the expansion of hog confinement facilities in the state and concluded that the state regulatory system failed to protect rural communities. Thierry says the Pork Association knew the Tribune was doing a story and decided to work with the reporter in an attempt to provide a balanced and educated voice to their story. But she says that's not the way it turned out. A right to farm constitutional amendment will be on the Oklahoma ballot in November. Becky Samples with Oklahoma Farm Bureau says her organization supports its passage. This is about protecting family farmers and ranchers. The amendment is designed to prevent future problems. We're seeing it in other states, and we're seeing it that it's an emotional-based regulation that's being brought to family farms and ranches. In Oklahoma, 98% of agriculture is family-owned and operated. And in local news, Kansas farm real estate value, a measurement of the value of all land and buildings on farms, decreased from 2015, according to USDA's NASS. Farm real estate value for 2016 averaged $1,880 per acre. This is down $150 per acre. Cropland value decreased 7% from last year to $2,050 per acre. Dryland cropland valued averaged $1,940 per acre, down $150 from last year. Irrigated cropland value averaged $3,000 per acre, down $270 from a year ago. Kansas Corn is accepting applications for its first class of the Kansas Corn Corps. Kansas Corn CEO Greg Krisick said, "We want to provide young corn growers with information and resources they can use on the farm and also offer them the availability to become more connected with growers across the state. To participate, farmers must be actively involved in a Kansas corn farming operation, be 45 or younger, and both men and women are encouraged to apply. Applications are due by September 15th. For more information, call Stacy Mayo at 785-448-6922, or you can email her at smayo@ksgrains.com. Up next in our Ag Future, we sit down with Josh Rowe, Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, for the second part of our interview about the health of ag in Kansas. You're watching Kansas Ag Report. Please stay tuned.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. Providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
Thanks for staying with us. We're doing our second part of our interview with Josh Rowe, who's the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture here in the state of Kansas, and who's an economist by trade. And so let's just kind of jump into it. Tax, I think everybody who lives in the state of Kansas understands tax receipts have not been where they anticipated them to be. We've had several shortfalls in the last couple of years, but I think some of the things that you're looking at is directly the correlation between agriculture, cash receipts, and tax receipts.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really interesting. A study, and I'd heard a lot of anecdotal evidence as I go across the state, as far as you might not think there's a direct relationship between commodity prices and then sales tax receipts through there, because obviously just like any other business, farmers, like any other manufacturing business, they don't pay any sales taxes on inputs and that. And then for the most part, sales taxes aren't collected on grain sales and that, because they're considered an input of another process. But that being said, through that, we thought, we could definitely make the case that there is, as commodity prices are down, the purchasing power of producers, and then those also ancillary industries that are dependent on the agricultural production, as their disposable income goes down, their spending power goes down. That could, in a highly agricultural state such as Kansas, that could adversely impact sales tax collections. And so myself and our economist here at the Kansas Department of Agriculture, we were able to look at the last 12 years of sales tax receipts in the state and adjust them for the usual economic things there, and looked at that versus the commodity prices over the time. And we can say clearly our models estimate that for every 1% decrease in commodity prices over the past 12 years, there is a corresponding $7.8 million decrease in sales tax receipts on a statewide basis. And of course, that can be further amplified in counties that are very strongly agriculturally dependent. They're very rural counties. And so you look at some of our indexes being down close to 100% from where they were in a couple years. That has some implications. And then further impacting that, we've also looked at how declines in oil and gas prices in those rural and oil and gas heavy counties, they also have very adverse impacts on sales tax receipts.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up with our second part of our interview with Josh Rowe, Rancho Kansas Ag Report, and we'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Thanks for staying with us. We're in Manhattan at the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and with Josh Rowe, who's the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture and an economist.
Yeah.
He's been working on some stuff, and we were talking about sales tax receipts in the first part of this segment. And again, we have had a $700 million shortfall the past couple of years, but 1% of commodity prices coming down equals, I think you said 7 or 7.8
Yeah,
million
$7.8.
$7.8 million. Over the past 12 years, or at least the last 4 years, I'm assuming commodity prices are down 5 to 7, maybe even 11%.
Yeah. Through that, actually, if we compare the commodity price indexes from the first half of 2016 compared to 2014, we're down across the board an average of 18.5%. So you take that by the what our analysis showed, that every 1% decline, $7.8 million in less sales tax revenue. That right there in itself is, that's $144 million of reduced sales tax receipts that we would predict just from the isolated from these commodity prices alone.
And again, we were kind of talking off camera. We're not trying to be political by any means, but some of the things that the governor tried doing, you have to tip your hat to him and say, thanks for trying. But there are some ancillary things that happen on the outside that are beyond anybody's control.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that, the 2012 tax cuts from the legislature and the governor get brought up a lot and through that. And I think there really are, and you look at these declines in the agricultural commodities through that, and then oil and gas receipts being down further. That has a very large impact on that.
$40 a barrel oil doesn't help anybody.
No, it doesn't. Oil's an interesting commodity. When you're looking at kind of overall U.S. economy and that, you can sometimes make an argument, lower oil prices, the consumer has more income to spend. But you get into Ellis County, Kansas, highly dependent on ag and oil and gas. And
they don't care.
that is, when those prices are down, so goes sales tax receipts and other forms of taxes for that county.
And the one thing we want to touch on real quick, we got about a minute left here, is we have an Ag Summit coming up August 30th. And it sounds like something that is going to be beneficial to everybody who attends.
Yeah, absolutely. Our team's been working with, speaking with stakeholders from across the agricultural industry. In fact, we've put together people from 17 different agricultural sectors, all the way down from our maybe smaller sectors like specialty livestock production, all the way up to our blue chip beef, corn, wheat production there. Been really talking to them about what are the opportunities and challenges for them going forward and growing their businesses in Kansas. And we're hoping to share those results, what we've heard, and really get together a good group of people and strategize about how to further grow the agricultural industry in the state, and going to put together that in a summit that's here in Manhattan, the Hilton Garden Inn, August 30th. Registration for that event's free. You can go to our website and register for that. Hope to have a good turnout and good dialogue about what we got going for us that's good, and then what we can improve upon.
Soybean production is at an all-time high, according to the National Agricultural Statistics Service. Soybean area planted has risen 1% and sits at a record high of 83.7 million acres in 2016. According to the June 30th report, farmers either maintained or increased their acreage in over half of the soybean-producing states. The states that saw the largest increases were Kansas, Minnesota, and Missouri, compared to 2015 production. Kansas increased acres planted by 6%, estimated at 4.15 million acres. Soybean growers nationwide increased biotechnology use, with herbicide-resistant varieties on 94% of the planted acres. Kansas, however, decreased its biotechnology use by 1 percentage point, with biotechnology use on 95% of the acres planted this year. Soybean crops have accumulated more demand, with soybean crush and exports increasing by 10 million and 20 million bushels, respectively, to nearly 2 billion bushels each, according to the July 12th World Agricultural Supply and Demand estimates. Kansas soybean stored in all positions is down 16% from last year, totaling 27.9 million bushels, with on-farm stocks decreasing 51% and off-farm stocks decreasing 8% since 2015.
The new Veterinary Feed Directive, or VFD, will go into full implementation on January 1st of 2017. The VFD rule requires any medically important antimicrobials used in livestock, feed, or water to be ordered by a veterinarian, and no extra label use of those VFD drugs will be allowed. Medically important means the drug is also used in human health. When a VFD is required, the veterinarian will need to fill it out either in paper or electronic form. No phone orders will be accepted. Once the VFD is complete, the feed can be mixed and fed to the animals it is intended for. The VFD will include items such as contact information, approximate number and description of the animals, the drug name and dosage, duration of use, expiration date, which cannot exceed 6 months, and instructions for reorders. The veterinarian, feed distributor, and producer will all need to keep a copy of the VFD for 2 years. So make sure to communicate with your veterinarian, your feed distributor, to come up with a plan so compliance with the VFD rule is as easy as possible for everyone involved and to avoid any kind of disruption in your operation.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand. And I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
USDA announced earlier this month it will allow chilled and frozen beef imports from Brazil, despite objections from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, Kansas Livestock Association, and other cattle organizations. National Cattlemen's Beef Association President Tracy Bruner of Ramona said USDA's decision is premature, as the Government Accountability Office is still reviewing the methodology used in making the decision to reopen beef trade with Brazil. National Cattlemen's Beef Association and KLA comments submitted in April of 2014 expressed concern with Brazil's ability to control animal movement and implement mitigation steps necessary to prevent the introduction of foot and mouth disease in the United States. In addition, the Kansas Livestock Association suggested risk analysis used by USDA significantly understated the cost of foot and mouth disease outbreak in the United States. KLA encouraged a more rigorous and thorough economic analysis be completed before the proposed rule moved forward. Following earlier announcement, Bruner said the U.S. government must take proper precautions to ensure a robust foot and mouth disease vaccine bank. The lack of preparedness, said Bruner, could devastate the U.S. beef industry if it is exposed to the highly contagious disease.
Good morning. I'm Cody Wintersheet with Paragon Ag Advisors. When it comes to production agriculture, there is a tremendous amount of planning that goes into growing your crops or raising your livestock, not only from a day-to-day basis, but also for the longer-term vision of where you want to go with your operation. But as most of you are aware, without the day-to-day hard work and follow-through of those plans, it's hard to make much progress. In other words, the execution of your daily and longer-term plans is critical to your ultimate success or shortfalls. The best laid out plan or strategy is essentially worthless without the proper execution of that plan, and all of your hard work and preparation is for naught. Timing is also very critical, as it is with most things in life if you really stop to think about it. All these things are very true when it comes to good marketing and risk management of that hard-earned commodity that you're growing or raising. The market does not give you a lot of time to make decisions, nor does it care if you're making any decisions at all. That's why it's critical that you either educate yourself on the different marketing tools at your disposal or look into finding someone who can help you navigate those waters. Specifically, key in on plans or strategies that can help alleviate as much of your human emotion out of making a marketing decision as possible. Also, consider plans that can take some of the critical timing out of the equation as well, as emotion and timing are probably two of the biggest shortfalls when it comes to marketing, in our opinion. I'll leave you with a quote: "If you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail." Thank you and have a great day.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Ag Risk Solutions. Experience, knowledge, integrity. Your crop insurance solution, Ag Risk Solutions. Kansas Wheat Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association. Supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Well, that's our show for today. I hope you'll join us each week for more news and information about agriculture in the state of Kansas. I'm Brian Holman, and thanks for watching.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
You need a partner that you can count on to be there for your business. Providing a depth of understanding to risk management issues so you don't have to. A knowledgeable support team located in your area, delivering products and services to make you more successful.
Here at Blue River Traders, we have the greatest selection of rustic and western furniture in Kansas.
At Blue River Traders, you can select from an inventory of rustic lodge or western furnishings. With a designer on hand, Blue River Traders will help create the look you desire.